Chapter 6, The Red King's Court. As strange as the day before had been, I woke up the next day assuming things would continue much the way they had been. Despite my situation, I was still used to waking early, so I'd been up for a little while when Carrie knocked. It was odd because it wasn't the usual time, so I wasn't even dressed yet. Okay, that part wasn't odd. I was rarely dressed unless I had to be. But when she came inside and asked me to get ready quickly, I couldn't help but feel something must be wrong. Is there a problem?
Not a problem. Please don't worry. You'll be leaving the mansion with Mr. CAISSA in less than an hour, and you need to be ready.
This boy, he had one heart-to-heart with her at night, and was like, I can show you the world. I know that's Aladdin, not Beauty and the Beast, but my point still stands. He was just like, oh, you have a complaint about not leaving. Let me rectify that immediately now that I'm aware of it. Leaving the... Where are we going?
I'm sure he'll tell you when he sees you.
Oh, right. I forgot the whole thing where I can never get a straight answer from anyone. My mistake.
Morgan, you do realize he doesn't tell me everything. I was told you were leaving and should be ready. He didn't tell me where you're going.
I know. Those of us at the bottom don't get answers, and you're at the bottom with me. It's just annoying.
I'm sure he'll tell you. Once you're dressed.
Can you at least tell me if everything's okay?
Why wouldn't it be?
I mean, I've been stuck in this house for a while, and now, without warning, I'm going somewhere? It's a little sudden, that's all.
I understand a change of routine can be unnerving, but I'm sure everything is all right. At the very least, I wasn't told otherwise. But you don't want to keep them waiting, so if you could dress...
Okay. Shoo, I'll make myself presentable.
You'll want to put on a jacket. Mr. CAISSA wanted me to be sure to tell you.
Thanks, Mom. Put on a jacket, it's cold outside. A jacket? What? Nice jacket. Curious and a little apprehensive, I threw on my clothes and quickly ran a brush through my hair. Strange that this was happening out of nowhere. Was it to do with everything that happened yesterday? It felt like it had to be related. Things had been static for so long, and now... something new was happening. Less than half an hour later, I poked my head out to let Carrie know I was ready.
Mr. CAISSA recommended we meet him at his room.
I followed her down the corridor, not quite holding in the sigh.
Nervous?
I dislike not knowing what's happening.
I thought you would be excited for an outing.
That depends on what the outing is, which is something I haven't been told yet.
You still don't trust us.
It has nothing to do with trust. CAISSA may not have even intended to keep me in the dark. I've noticed he isn't used to people asking questions. Well, not people he considers his people. At any rate, it probably just didn't occur to him. But still...
It isn't a bad thing to be cautious here, but I'm sure he'll tell you soon enough.
Speak of the devil. Look at us all in our black vampire goth clothes. We look fantastic. We didn't quite make it to CAISSA's suite before he came looking for us. Perhaps he got tired of waiting, though I didn't tend to associate him with impatience. Just where are we going that he couldn't wait a few minutes longer? He was coming towards us, dressed a little more casually than usual.
Thank you, Carrie. Will be enough from here. I'd like either you or June to be present outside Morgan's room throughout the day, but you aren't both needed. You can take it in shifts.
Understood. Have an enjoyable time.
Thank you.
She left us, and CAISSA motioned me towards the small staircase near his room, the only one I knew the location of. Where are we going?
You seem apprehensive.
Of course I am. No one is telling me why I'm suddenly leaving.
That's understandable. I apologize for the secrecy. It's difficult to know when someone is listening here. I'll explain in the car. For now...
His voice dropped to a low murmur.
I hope you don't mind.
What? Hold on! Hold on, this went from 0 to 100 real fast. Hold on. I stiffened when his hand slipped into mine, skin cool against my hot palm. I like how he was like, if I just mutter this real quick under my breath and take her hand fast, she won't have time to reject me. I'm just gonna hope this works out. A notification popped up at the corner of my vision, and I must have jumped because his hand tightened. The notification was a message from him. But my system rights were curtailed. Was he using his ability to send this? Oh, sneaky boy! I love a good sneaky boy. I tried to keep my expression neutral as I opened the message.
Don't react. Just play along.
Play along with what? Just pretend like you're romantically interested, because you are at this point, and just hold his hand. Just let it go. Just keep with it.
I wanted to take you to see the court, but it may attract some attention that we're leaving together. It's more convenient if everyone can dismiss it as some kind of frivolous outing. There are already rumors about us. We may as well play to them.
Oh? There's rumors? There are rumors about us? What kind? Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the very slight smile.
What kind do you think? It would be more shocking at this point if there weren't.
True. That was probably true. We were close to the same age, both single. At least I assumed he was. I had no reason to believe otherwise. It was natural people would talk now that he'd taken over my training. You're both very good looking. It's just natural. Why are we going to the court suddenly?
You didn't give me an answer last night. I would like you to. But I realize you are right when you say your experience here is too limited. Thus, I intend to expand it.
Not the answer I was expecting. It's one I was expecting. I mulled it over the rest of the way to the car. To be honest, I was a little disappointed it was waiting for us outside. I'd been imagining an underground garage full of different makes and models, all sleek and black. If there was one, I wouldn't get to see it today. Dang. The usual car was just waiting out front with the usual uniformed driver, who opened the door for us when he saw us. It was strange leaving the mansion. I barely even remembered my arrival, so the winding paved driveway, the large gate, the retinal scan to get out was all new. The level of security was impressive.
It's a lovely neighborhood, isn't it? Most of the people who live here are businessmen and politicians, associates of my father.
Just how well known is it that your father is Crimson's leader?
In some circles, quite well known. In others, he's simply the president of Erythros Industries. However, everyone knows him as a man ruthless to those he considers opponents. Whether it's a senator or a CEO, no one crosses my father. Half the government is in my father's pocket, and the other half would love to see his empire topple. Both scenarios are frustrating. Everywhere you look in this world, someone wants something from you. Favors, or your life.
Sounds difficult to walk away from. A frown passed over his face as he stared outside.
More like impossible.
Unless you're Deimos and you fake your death to get out of there, I guess. Deimos had the big brain plan. Delphine differed from New Albion in every way. Parts of it were beautiful. The architecture differed from what I was used to. Darker, denser. But it was still beautiful. We called it the night side, so part of me had always pictured it to be, well, night. They had artificial day, just as we had artificial darkness, of course, but that didn't change what my mental image had always been. It wasn't anything like my mental image, though, and that was strange to me somehow. CAISSA didn't speak as we drove. His elbow was on the armrest, chin in his hand. He looked bored at a glance, but every so often I caught him nodding, or making murmuring noises to himself. Talking to someone. I wonder who. Interestingly, most people spoke aloud for conversations over the net if they weren't using the base messaging system. It wasn't that verbal conversations were necessary, it was just that thought-based conversations were still more work, even for someone like me who had several expansions to help with focus. Humans always seem to take the path of least resistance when possible. When someone was carrying on a conversation in their head, you could see their eyes go far away and their expression would blank. CAISSA, for all that he appeared to be speaking with someone, stayed alert, occasionally flicking his gaze my way and catching me watching him. Every time, I'd flush and quickly look out my window. Ugh, when did I get so stuck on this guy's face? Since the moment you met him and were like, he's distressingly beautiful. The drive was longer than I expected, and it didn't hit me until we entered the tunnel that we were heading to another dome. I looked CAISSA's way again. He frowned, eyes flickering as he glanced to the far window. He seemed to still be mid-conversation, and I didn't want to interrupt him. It was strange the tunnel was so empty. Usually there was a lot of interstate and intercity traffic between domes. Not really true for this one. The checkpoints also seemed heavily guarded. No one stopped us as we went past, but every car heading back the way we came was stopped. Not that there were many. Exiting the tunnel was like going to a different world. The light had gone from bright mid-morning to a dusky evening. And it was raining. I finally couldn't resist saying something as I pressed my hand to the glass and peered outside. Why is it so dark here?
The government diverts most of Delphine's power reserves to Pythia and other major cities. Domes like this get almost nothing, so there aren't enough power reserves for a full day cycle.
But it's raining. Active weather is one of the first things to go during energy shortages, isn't it?
The environmental controls of Chestershire have been malfunctioning for months. It's always raining here. It's made the power reserve situation even more problematic, but as you can see, it persists.
Everything here was so different from what I was used to. Trash littered the streets, signs were lit with flickering neon.
They call it the City of Legions. Its population is twice that of Pythia, but it runs on half the power reserves. Big corporations like Erithros Industries control everything at the top. Gangs run everything else. The only good thing about it is that the four families consider it neutral territory. We own nothing here.
Except that Erithros Industries is owned by the Fianchettos, who are synonymous with Crimson. He smiled thinly.
That it is.
So this is still part of Delphine?
It is. But it's a city where people want to be forgotten. Delphine's government doesn't care much about what happens here. Many bigger corporations set up here because there's little law enforcement to make sure regulations are being adhered to.
But the power shortages must make things more difficult.
It's true for lower districts. Electricity is certainly a commodity here. The government gives us little. People siphon what extra they can get away with from wealthy districts. High-capacity batteries go for astronomical prices on the underground market.
So the attacks on the Triad's power stations on the day side...
Power is an issue all across this side of the planet. Only some of those come from here. Many of them are homegrown as well. We have people in the Triad doing nothing but buying and selling electricity.
I thought drugs were the big money maker for groups like Crimson. He shrugged.
Many assume that, but it's not always the case. My father has little interest in illegal substances, so it's never been a major part of Crimson's dealings. But for other families? Yes. However, only in some places. In Pythia, Cerna, and even New Albion. But not necessarily here, and not many other places on this side of the planet. For many, it's power, clean water, medical supplies, nanotech.
Nanotech? Is that not something people have easy access to, even here?
You would be surprised. Expansions like the ones you received are incredibly expensive here. They aren't something everyone can afford. And of course, those are just the assets being sold. Entertainment is high value here as well. Gambling is prevalent. You might be surprised to learn that much of what Crimson does at lower levels of the family just involves lending money. And charging high interest on those who need to pay it back.
I watched the building slide past outside. This was the Delphine of news reports, the crime-ridden fantasy of books and movies. Except it was real, and worse than I'd imagined. I can't believe that, after all this time, they still haven't resolved the power issues.
The government is corrupt as they come, but in this regard, what would you have them do? There were 7 geothermal stations on this side of the planet when colonists arrived, and only 4 were functional. Of those, they lost contact with one more than 200 years ago, a seismic event or something down on the southern plain. We cannot withstand the cold long enough to repair any of them.
I thought there were wind farms to supplement the geothermal stations.
There are. My family owns 4 of them.
Really?
Of course. The Fianchettos are involved in almost everything that goes on here.
That was terrifying, considering what his father was like.
The maintenance costs of a single wind farm are almost as much as the maintenance of the entire Trinity solar array. Even with the latest alloys, the windmills struggle to withstand Arcalian winds, much less the sand flares and worse storms. The more sheltered areas closer to the sea are within Nomos territory, so we can only build on the exposed plains at the edge.
The edge? A colloquial term for the indistinct dividing line between the Twilight region and either full day or full night. There is not a hard border between these regions, and the phrase is generally just meant to refer to areas very near to where Endgame has demarcated the start of the protected area of the Twilight Wastes. I can see how that would make it difficult.
Well, I've been working to acquire a spot that might be good for offering some protection from the worst of the storms.
Does it help? For you to acquire more land?
Somewhat. Even then, I won't be able to divert much of the power where it's actually needed, not without being noticed. But a little from multiple sources can go undetected, while making life easier for many people in the slums. And don't think it's just Chestershire suffering. You only saw the best of Pythia. There are slums worse than this in the heart of the city where there's little actual law enforcement. The families are the ones who keep everyone in line there. With fear. Threats. Worse.
And that's what I'm a part of now. Oh, we got our first affectionate thing. Of course we're gonna go affectionate. But you don't like that sort of thing, do you?
I'm doing my best to prove to you that I do not.
He's not really beastly, Morgan. Give him a chance.
Though I know I was threatening towards you when you first arrived, so perhaps it doesn't mean much.
I suppose I'm starting to feel like the threat came from above, you know? I suppose I've always gotten that feeling.
It doesn't make much difference if I'm the one meeting it out, does it?
Wow, you've really turned self-loathing into an art form, haven't you?
It's truly disturbing to hear Jack's words coming out of your mouth.
If I'm repeating anything Jack has said, it's only because it's true.
I suppose that is probably accurate.
And there it was, the almost smile again. It felt like I was seeing it more and more these days. I guess when you're used to keeping people in line through fear, it's hard to break out of that habit, even if you want to.
The end goal was to keep you alive, not in line, though I suppose the latter was necessary for the former. But you're right. Ensuring you were too afraid to do anything but listen was the fastest. Probably the easiest approach.
I could understand that. Those values, those techniques to make people obey. I was sure they were heavily ingrained. but if he was trying to break free from it and find another way, I could maybe respect that.
It isn't just that it was fastest, though. You've learned by now that being seen as gentle comes with an unfortunate price. I learned long ago to never remove my mask when I'm there.
That was unfortunate, because I had the feeling the man under the mask was much better than the one he seemed to be when it was firmly in place. Yeah, I agree with this. I love all of this. This is fantastic. The car came to a halt, preventing that conversation from continuing. CAISSA pulled his jacket back on as the driver got out.
Stay close and don't wander off. You'll be safe at the court, but Chestershire is dangerous for anyone who doesn't know their way around.
As expected. Ooh, here we are. I feel like I'm on a planet in Star Wars, and it looks great. The building we'd stopped in front of was a little run down, sort of old-fashioned and nestled between others. An apartment complex, it looked like.
I own it, along with many other housing units here. This one is officially unoccupied.
And unofficially?
At capacity. Let's not linger out here. Come on.
As we headed inside, the car pulled away, leaving us behind.
He'll park somewhere the car will draw less attention.
So, this is the court?
Not just this building. This entire block is what we refer to when we say the court. But our people live throughout this district, to be honest. Most congregate near here, though, if they can.
Oh. New backgrounds. There's even a kid here. My goodness. The interior of the building was staggering. Old and sort of run down like everything else. Also beautiful in a strange way. Like a remnant of a past that had been much better. We were ambushed as soon as CAISSA stepped inside. CAISSA! We didn't think you were coming! A couple of teenagers descended on us, all smiles. Look at that big smile! Man, he just needs to be here forever. And in that moment, CAISSA's cold exterior fell away. His face lit up in a way I'd never seen. Like watching ice melt. There were others who called out and came over as well. Adults, a few small children. They didn't call him Sir or Mr. It was just CAISSA. And it was so strange watching him interact. Celeste was there among them, and others I didn't recognize. When CAISSA turned to me again, I don't know what sort of face I must have been making, but he seemed hesitant. Almost a little embarrassed. He motioned me closer. And, feeling just as awkward, I joined him.
This is Morgan, the queen rank I told you about before.
Wow! A queen rank? Does that mean you're stronger than CAISSA? You're the one Jack told us about? How many queens do you think are out there, idiot? Don't call me an idiot!
If you two are going to wrestle, do it somewhere else. Don't mind them. They're always like this.
I didn't expect to see you here already. Last I heard, you were still rubbish at using your Psi.
She only just awakened her abilities. In a few months' time, she is likely to be stronger than us all, Celeste.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm confident.
I'm glad someone is.
As much as I hate to do this to you right when you got here, the heating unit for the flats is down again. We haven't been able to do a thing with it. There's some sort of weird-ass error. And with the dome's environmental controls going haywire, it's been freezing at night.
I'll look at it. And I'll try to talk to Noah, see if we can figure out this weather situation.
It was more than a little overwhelming the way we were swarmed with people. He was like a celebrity. As I tried to stay close to him without getting jostled around, I noticed someone lurking at the edge of the crowd. A tallish figure with a blur of red hair. Why do you... Rory, is that you? Oh my god, it's Rory, isn't it? But with his haircut. Rory! I'm so glad you're alive! He was half lurking in a doorway, just watching the crowd. How is he here? Our eyes met, and he froze, looking like a wild animal caught unexpectedly. Come back here, Rory, please! No, you're alive! He stiffened, then vanished back into the hall. Wait!
Let him go.
So did he find his way here after what happened? Or was he working for Crimson before? Or what? Rory, what is your story? I had no idea when he'd wrestled himself away from the others to lean in and speak to me. That guy is...
I know who he is. He showed up about a week after we took you to the mansion.
Okay.
Are you still angry at him for attacking you like that?
No, of course not. I was never angry. I'm so glad to see he's okay. He was also in that building that collapsed. I wasn't sure he got out. He looked much better than he had back then. For sure. Especially with the haircut. The gauntness had faded as well. CAISSA took me by the elbow and led me to a quieter spot, waving away a few people who tried to follow.
We don't know what happened to him yet, but it was pretty bad. He's been reluctant to talk about it, though I suspect that's due to trauma. I've been looking for any information on him. So far, no luck. Someone wiped all record of him, or has hidden it quite well.
Suspicious.
We suspect experimentation. Or worse. We don't know who was behind it.
That's terrible.
It's what many here have been through. That or something similar. Living in Delphine slums is difficult, but this place has become a sanctuary for many people.
And it's a place you created.
I didn't expect it to grow like this, but it ended up becoming more than I ever imagined.
Why do it, though? What do you get out of this?
Not everyone is motivated by personal gain. I was born in the slums and lived here for some time. I know what it's like. By forming a cohesive group like this, everyone is stronger. What started as me just trying to create an affordable living space turned into something more when I realized I had the power to truly help. And being here is...
He looked back at the room where others were talking, coming, going. The atmosphere is certainly different from the mansion.
Yes. Instead of the strong dominating the weak, the strong protect the weak. That feels more along the lines of how it should be.
I agree, but that should be true for everyone, not just Espers.
Though I won't deny many of the people here are F-class Espers, they aren't the only ones welcome. They're hardly the only ones who suffer in Delphine.
Hey, Jack.
CAISSA! What the hell are you doing here?
Jack!
We weren't expecting you to stop by so soon.
He was looking much better than he had been yesterday. They both were. Celeste must have finished healing them once they were away from the mansion. He was almost not even scowling, and there was a man with him I hadn't met. Hello. My goodness, so many people I'm meeting today.
Morgan, this is Rowan, Veli's partner.
Charmed, I'm sure.
Hey there, little queen.
He sidled next to Veli and slid an arm around his waist as Veli glared at me.
You think it's wise to bring her here?
I believe it's wise to show her the court, yes.
You're giving her an awful lot of special treatment lately.
Jealous. It isn't special treatment. Whether it's training her or bringing her here, these are things that are necessary. Why else do you think I brought her here?
My stomach dropped when he said that, and an unexpected disappointment washed over me. Why should that bother me? What did I even want him to say? That I was here because I was me? He wouldn't even know I existed if I wasn't a queen rank. Well, it's because you're starting to fall for him, girl. More and more. Veli cut me out of the conversation, pulling CAISSA away to continue to tell him why I shouldn't be here. Oh, Veli, shut up. I was worried about you before. With that, Jack moved closer to me.
You okay, Butterfly? You look like something is bothering you.
I suppose so. It's just a little overwhelming, that's all. There's a lot of new information coming in.
So, what do you think of it? Our little haven in Chestershire. Not what you expected, is it?
Not really. But I don't know what I expected anyway. And I've only seen one room of it.
So, you want a tour of the place? Not that there's much to see.
Jack, I appreciate your hustle of wanting to distract me constantly throughout this, but I am on CAISSA's route and you can wait one more turn, sir. I think CAISSA would rather do it. He indicated he wanted to show me what he's building here.
Might be more fun to go with me.
Shut up and behave yourself for one more turn! Fun isn't the word I'd use.
CAISSA is in high demand here. He might not have time to give you a proper tour.
If he doesn't, I'm certain he'll find someone else to do it. But I'd rather wait and give him the chance.
You're no fun at all. That guy is rubbing off on you in all the worst ways, Butterfly.
I'll keep that assessment in mind.
Ugh, you're even starting to sound like him. She's starting to sound like who? A serious idiot who doesn't know how to have fun.
He shot CAISSA a casual grin as he passed him.
I guess I'll leave the both of you to it.
I'm surprised you managed to get away again.
I'm sorry. It's been a while since my last visit. There is a lot they want to catch me up on. And Veli is... well...
He doesn't want me here. I noticed.
You are still new. And there are other things he feels I should be focused on while I'm here.
Is everything alright?
It's fine. Would you like me to show you around? There are some things I should check on. You could come with me.
Yeah, I'd like that, I think. He motioned me to follow him. Other room. Nice beat-up couch. We left the main room and most of the noise behind, climbing the massive stairs to the upper floors.
Truthfully, there's not much to see here. Not in this building. And I'd rather not walk you around outside today.
It seems like they have a lot of problems here, despite all your efforts.
That's not inaccurate.
He frowned as we reached an upstairs corridor.
Celeste is right. It is cold up here.
I guess building management will have to get on that. He gave me a pained look at that teasing.
I would, if that was easy. Well, there is someone we can ask. I can diagnose the problem if I link with the heating unit, but there's a good chance I won't be able to fix it if it's parts related. The bigger issue is the state of the weather and environmental controls of this dome.
Isn't that something you can diagnose as well?
It's something I've been working on for a few weeks now in my spare time. But it's like untying a knot. It has to be untangled, then I need to re-establish the appropriate connections. It's not as simple as popping in, having a conversation, and fixing it all.
It's really something the governor or the council should be handling.
There's a lot of work to be done before a governing body even has the power to do something like this. And even then, we have to get the foot of Delphine's government off our throat. Until this place is self-sustainable.
Is that what you're aiming for? To make it self-sustainable and then become independent?
That is becoming more and more what we seem headed towards.
You're serious about this, aren't you?
Have you known me to be anything else?
Gaining independence from Delphine wasn't a small matter. He was talking about becoming a self-governing dome. That was huge. Bigger than anything I'd considered him to be a part of. The implications were...
In any case, there's a long way to go yet. My father, of course, would never support such a move. Everything must be done without his knowledge, which is difficult enough. If I could, I'd put all of Crimson's resources to this effort. Topple the crooked empire my father has built. But that would mean knocking him off the throne first.
Knocking the leader of Crimson off his throne, pushing back Delphine's corrupt government, establishing an independent city-state. CAISSA, are you trying to start a revolution? To change Delphine? Because that's what this was starting to sound like. He looked briefly startled when I asked that, then looked away, his expression dark.
I don't think I'm capable of something like that. I'm not Deimos.
He sighed and took my arm again.
Come, I'll show you the rest of what there is to see.
I followed him, both amazed to learn he had something like that in mind, and bothered by the rest of what he said. He doesn't have to be Deimos. Whoa. So many new backgrounds, I love it. They were right that there wasn't much to see. Not here. CAISSA took me up to the roof to get a look at the city, though. It was drizzling, gray and dim. The buildings were shrouded in low-hanging clouds, and I was cold, but I didn't mind it. It felt like the first time I'd really been outside in a while. We'd barely stepped out when someone called him away. I felt a little bad for him, but it just showed again how much people here respected him. And needed him. He gave me a firm command to stay there, and he would be right back. Alone but for the bodyguards lurking in the stairwell, I wandered from the door into the railing to get a better view of the city. I half expected someone to follow me out and make sure I didn't throw myself from the rooftop in a daring escape attempt. They didn't, but I could feel them watching as I set my hand on the dripping metal rail and breathed the cold air. Mist settled on my hair and jacket, but I didn't mind. The city wasn't like what I was used to. It wasn't clean and beautiful, nor dripping with plants and vegetation. Yet somehow it was still teeming with life. People, cars, everyone trying to scrape by. It might be some of the worst of what the night side offered, but it was home for a lot of people, wasn't it? Despite the state of the building and city, people were living, and that was amazing in its own way, because if they weren't at the court, where would any of them be? Probably not somewhere they could laugh like that. It wasn't as if their lives weren't still difficult, but there was a lot of power in having a place to go home to. That's what it felt like the court offered them. That was what CAISSA had offered them, I thought. As well as he could, anyway. I don't know how long I stood there, lost in those thoughts and staring into the gray rain. But when CAISSA finally returned, he joined me with hesitation, it seemed.
Aren't you cold? You didn't have to wait outside.
Not really. Without warning, he reached over to take one of my hands.
Morgan!
It's his inner mom! He said my name so sternly it sounded like a reprimand. And before he did anything else, he tried to rub life back into my fingers.
We are going inside right now.
He put an arm around me and guided me back inside to my amusement, as if a little rain and cold air would be the death of me after everything else I'd been through. He asked someone to bring a towel for my hair and needed to be reassured several times I didn't need a change of clothes, too. This boy. Ooh. I wonder if this is going to be our room when we're on Jack's route, maybe? I was astonished to find myself in the bedroom a short time later, towel draped over my head while CAISSA dried it for me. CAISSA, please. Just like, rub aggressively. What is wrong with you? Why were you standing out in the cold? Do you want to be sick? Do you want to die? I can't with this boy.
Who stands in the rain for 20 minutes getting soaked?
You told me to stay there.
I didn't tell you to stay in the rain.
I like the rain. I've spent way too much time indoors lately, so it was a nice change. He paused what he was doing.
I apologize for that.
I pushed the towel away from my face and looked up at him. I'm not blaming you. Just saying. The troubled look on his face told me he might not believe that. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but there was a soft tap on the door interrupting. Someone poked their head in the opening and told us there was food, and that they'd made me something warm to drink. CAISSA returned the towel to the bathroom, and the two of us went downstairs together. There was a dining room for eating, but it was loud and chaotic, so we had our meal at one of the tables in the lobby instead. It was still loud and chaotic when quite a few people followed us. Watching CAISSA interact with everyone was so strange because he was just so different from usual. Softer, smiling more, kind. He wasn't exactly rowdy like the rest of them, but he laughed and talked in a way that was more animated than I'd ever seen him. And every time he caught me watching him, he'd stiffen for a moment, then look away as if embarrassed. And I realized how little I really knew him, even though I'd convinced myself I had him all figured out. But I really didn't at all. We left not long after that, much to everyone's disappointment. CAISSA said he was never able to stay for long, especially not since I was with him. The ride back was silent, at least for a while. I had a lot to think about, and CAISSA seemed to want to give me the space to do it.
Do you understand things a little better now?
I think I understand your goals better now, yes.
I know when you came here, you didn't expect to become tangled in Crimson's affairs. But Jack wasn't truly lying to you when he said you'd be a part of the court. That is the ultimate goal, though the road there may be winding. It was never my intent to have you permanently at the mansion, having to deal with all its internal politics. I apologize I didn't find a way to make it clearer from the start. My father was more heavy-handed, and the pushback more extreme than I expected. I found myself struggling to prove your worth in a way I hadn't anticipated. I didn't think my father would take such an interest in your development. I panicked and handled things poorly. Because of that, I forced you into an environment I hate, knowing how painful it would be for you. I am sorry.
Without thinking, I reached over and covered his hand with mine. He jumped and gave me a startled look before his gaze dropped to our hands. Thank you for bringing me here today. And I'm sorry too, for thinking the worst of you instead of trying to understand more.
You aren't obligated to try to understand me.
Maybe not. But I think it would have saved us both some frustration. And there's one more thing I want to say.
Yes?
You keep saying you aren't Deimos, like it's a bad thing. But I don't think it's bad. I think it's enough to just be yourself. For a moment, I don't think he knew what to say. He coughed and looked away.
That's surprising, coming from you.
Well, I haven't enjoyed being a guest at your father's mansion. But I chose to go with Jack, and I understand somewhat that there has been a certain inevitability to how things played out. That not everything was in your control. Even if I wish you'd been a little more upfront with me, I also understand it's been difficult for you to juggle everything else along with your father's expectations and demands.
Do you regret choosing us?
I mean, yes, at times. But I imagine I would feel that way regardless where I was. I regret being an Esper, but that isn't something anyone can change. That night at the cafe, I made the choice that seemed best at the time. I have no way of knowing whether another choice would have worked out better. And I do think there's value in what you're doing here.
Will you help me do it? I know it isn't what you wanted, but at least for now, I don't believe there's a way to let you return to that life. Perhaps in the future, when we're no longer subject to what my father wants. Then I can help you find a way to do it.
I let out a soft breath, a regretful smile coming to my lips. I'll help you. I mean, of course I will. What kind of person would I be to say no to helping make life better for others here?
Will you help even if it turns out your desired future is irreparably broken?
If that's the case, then I'll fix it. Or find a new one. That's how life works, isn't it? I'm sure everyone here has had to do that. Even you. Isn't that part of what you're doing here?
I suppose I can't deny that.
Then I fit in well.
I suppose you do.
It was funny, but when I finally was back in my room, for the first time in a while, things seemed less bleak, hopeful almost. And I felt like I finally had something to look forward to.